Week 3, Day 3, pages 144 to 147. American Stories. Johnny has many seeds. Johnny plants an apple seed. For number 1, we're going to put this as number 1. Draw what you think will happen next. There you can see this is an old book of a student who tried drawing something there. But you're going to make a picture. What do you think will happen next? So this is part of a few skills actually. It's sequencing because they show the first 2 parts and you have to make a picture for what you think will be next. So that's sequencing, but it's also cause and effect because they are showing you cause and you have to show the effect of that. And you could also say it's making conclusions based on evidence or inferences, making an inference. A few skills there. And you're going to illustrate what you think will happen next. All right, now we're going to start reading these pages. Over time, American stories are shaped by many people. Some stories have facts or parts that are true. Some have parts that are fiction or make-believe. Heading, Folk Tales. A folk tale is a story from long ago about the lives of real people. Read these folk tales about 3 famous Americans. One thing you should know is folk tales are usually told orally, and they are from a long time ago. So what happens sometimes is we can't always, we don't have proof that everything is always true. And you'll see these stories, your book's not going to say it, but when it's a folk tale, especially from a long time, something from a long time ago that's passed down, usually the people are true, but we're not always sure 100% if the information is correct or not, unfortunately. So, but we'll read these 3 here. Davy Crockett. Davy Crockett was born in a cabin in Tennessee in 1786. As a boy, he worked hard to buy a horse and become a great bear hunter. Davy grew up to be a soldier and a government leader. So also, you're going to make a picture for number 1, and also for number 1, please do this. It says, underline 1 fact about Davy Crockett. And here you can see a student, this is from an old book, so I'm not going to say if that's the correct answer. But you need to just give 1 fact about Davy Crockett. Or you can list 1 thing that it says about him, that's fine. For 145, Johnny Appleseed. Johnny Appleseed got his name because he carried sacks of apple seeds everywhere he went. His real name was John Chapman. Johnny planted many apple trees across the country. He wanted people to have enough food to eat. So for number 2, please write Johnny Appleseed's real name. That's pretty easy, and looks like the student in this old book did that correctly. Okay, Betsy Ross. Now here's an example where the book is going to say something about her which there is debate. In other words, we don't know if this is 100% true or not. There are some people who think this is true, but then some probably most good historians have doubts about the story. As far as, at least the one about the first American flag. Betsy Ross. Betsy Ross made her living by sewing. One day in 1776, General George Washington, the leader of the American Army, visited her. He asked Betsy to sew the first American flag. Betsy made a flag with 13 stars and stripes, one for each American colony. So for number 3, write how Betsy Ross made her living. Okay, so now we're going to go to the next page, 146. Tall tales. A tall tale is a story that starts off sounding true, but is mostly fiction. Read these tall tales and talk about what parts are fiction. So the folk tales, just so you know, the folk tales are, maybe you could say, mostly fiction, mostly non-fiction, true, about real people. Non-fiction is true. But now we're going to read about tall tales, which are mostly fiction, or fake. Fiction is fake, fantasy. Paul Bunyan. When Paul Bunyan was a baby, he was so big that he ate 40 bowls of oatmeal each day. Paul had a giant blue ox named Babe. He and Babe stomped around Minnesota as they played. Their footprints were huge. The holes filled up with rain and made 10,000 lakes. Pecos Bill. Stories say that Pecos Bill was the best cowboy to ever live. He had a horse that no one else could ride. One day there was a tornado. Pecos Bill jumped on it. The tornado flattened forests. It rained so hard that canyons washed away. He did not let go until the tornado died down to nothing. That is how people got the idea for rodeo riding. But instead of tornadoes, cowboys ride horses. So here list the parts, each part that is fiction. Again, from language arts, nonfiction is real, and fiction is fake, fantasy. Easy way to remember that way. Make-believe. Fiction is make-believe. 147, John Henry. This is part of the Tall Tales. There have been songs and books written about a railroad worker named John Henry. Some say that he was bigger and taller than any other man around. John Henry used his hammer to chip away at rocks so that a big tunnel could be built. With a hammer in each hand, John Henry built the tunnel all by himself. So here, number 5, list the part that is fiction. Six, and again, don't copy these. This is from an old book. But compare and contrast. How are folk tales and tall tales alike? So you want to start. Folk tales and tall tales are alike because they are both stories that, and then finish that. And then for the next one, put folk tales are different than tall tales because, remember, we want to rephrase the question and write complete sentences in our answers. We restate the question, taking the question and turning it into a sentence. Number 7, which character in the stories do you like best? Why? I would start it as follows. The character in the stories that I like best is, and explain why. Hopefully this helps. Hope you have a great day.